Hello everyone and welcome back to The Interview. I'm your host, Susan Lee McDonald. Today I am at the Namsan Seoul Art Space. Here, director Robert Johanson is directing the Korean musical version of Rudolph. He's an incredible director with lots of shows under his belt, and we're going to talk to him to find out how he finds working in Korea. Let's go meet Robert Johanson.
We find Johanson together with the actors and staff of his latest project, the musical Rudolph. We were able to peek in on him teaching an acting class. At these meetings, the actors go over the day's rehearsals and discuss possible improvements. The actors are all ears to Johanson's advice, tested through time.
So it's right there by your chair.
저 의자에 띠 있고요.
And then head at least get almost to center, around center.
거의 센터 쪽으로 와서 띠를 착용해
So the
주세요.
final part of the scene.
그래야 마지막
Robert suggests that the actors change their movements, and the actors quickly adjust themselves to the changes.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to be on TV? Oh, come on. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, I'm Susan McDonald.
So good to see you. I'm
So
so
nice
glad you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We really are excited you're here.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait to just see the musical, just seeing how you guys are practicing. It's
Well, they're
pretty
working so
incredible.
hard.
Oh, I can imagine.
You know, from 10 in the morning till 10 at night, it's been
Is
crazy.
that typical for most
Well,
musical preparation
because
here?
we have 3 separate casts, so we have a lot to get everybody ready.
Oh wow.
See, so, I mean, it won't, now it'll be less because we don't work them that hard right, up to the opening.
Okay.
But to get everybody ready, it's not that all of them have been here for 12 hours, but we have.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Now you've gotten over jet lag and everything from having
Yeah, it always
been
takes me
back.
a week.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really hard. You don't know when it's going to hit you.
Yes.
So you're kind of fine when you get up in the morning and then suddenly in the middle of the day you're like,
Well, you look like you're really refreshed. Maybe something about just directing and seeing them sing and do their thing.
Once we get to do a full run through, the first full run throughs, and we've done 3 now in a row because we have 3 different casts, and it goes well, then you can start to relax.
Yeah.
At least then you've gotten over the mountain.
Well, I'd love to find out more, not only about Rudolph, but I want to find out more about you because you, after all, this is the interview.
Inner. You're going to find the inner me.
Absolutely. So I know that you have to kind of get ready as well, and we'll set up everything here. But
Okay. I'll be right
I'm
with
really
you.
looking forward to talking with you later.
Thank you. All right,
Awesome.
very good.
Great,
All right.
thank you.
We'll be right there in a minute.
Okay, great.
Robert Johanson is a globally renowned director who has chosen Korea's musical theater scene. Johanson, who is critically acclaimed for his Broadway adaptation of the Czech musical Hamlet, first came to Korea for the Seoul debut of Hamlet in 2007. Since then, he has absolutely captured the hearts of Korean audiences with successful big-scale musicals like Monte Cristo and Elisabeth. Johanson began cultivating his talent at a young age, and in college he won his ticket to Broadway when he was cast in the musical Shenandoah. After that debut, he joined the casts of prestigious musicals like Godspell, Jesus Christ Superstar, and A Midsummer Night's Dream, and worked as an artistic director with the renowned Paper Mill Playhouse for over 20 years.
Marshalling a musical production the whole thing is about keeping the whole thing in your head. And it gets faster and faster, and she is 78 years old and she is like giving it, this performance. Not everybody has loving parents that are just, that way. I mean, I hope most people do, but.
Robert Johanson has become a creative force in the musical theater scene with over 30 years of experience as an actor and as a director. Join me, Susan Lee McDonald, and hear about Robert Johanson's dynamic life on and off the musical stage on this week's The Interview.
So it looks like they have everything set up for us here to do our interview. And thanks so much for letting us use your props. These are such incredible chairs.
I know, aren't they great? This is the Prime Minister's chair. This is
Wow.
what he sits in. He's actually He kind of runs the country, and so that's actually Franz Joseph, the emperor's chair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he's more conservative. He doesn't
okay.
have to show off like the prime minister.
Well, we definitely wanted to have you have the more showy chair.
Yes, I feel very important.
Is it comfortable though?
No,
No. I'm so sorry.
no, it's very, because he has to sit up really high, so it's very hard.
So it automatically adjusts your
Yeah,
posture.
it's sit up.
Well, it's fitting for a very regal person
Yes,
like
yes,
yourself.
that's it.
Yes.
On October 23rd, the rehearsal for the debut performance of Rudolph was open to the press. The open rehearsal attracted reporters from many news outlets in Korea. Expectations are high for Rudolph, as it is being directed by Robert Johanson.
너무 좋으세요. 그냥 한마디로 너무 좋고 이젠 정말 서로 눈빛만 봐도 다 알고 진짜 지금은 가족같이 일하고 있어요. 그러니까 그만큼 신뢰와 믿음이 쌓여서 서로 너무 믿고 맡길 수 있어서 작품이 너무 안정적으로 이제 진행이 되고 하니까 너무 좋죠.
Before the performance, Johanson runs a final check on the preparations. With each passing year in Korea, Johanson has come to truly treasure the staff and actors here. He pays attention even to small details like costume.
Is it going to be? You're going to be okay. You're not going to trip on the floor.
괜찮으세요? 이거 발안 다치겠죠?
Oh, don't even do it. Every day somebody gets hurt. That's why I'm worried.
내일 누가 하나씩
How do you feel over it?
It's always a little scary when the first time you expose anything to the press, or anybody. But I think we're in good shape. Everybody worked hard, and I think it won't be too embarrassing. Wow, what a great turnout. Thank you so much for coming.
오늘 이 자리에 와주셔서 정말 감사드립니다.
We're very excited to present to you the first performance today of Crown Prince Rudolph.
After a brief introduction by Johanson, Rudolph is revealed to the press. The voice of An Jae-wook, who plays Crown Prince Rudolph, begins the performance. This scene, in which Rudolph and his father argue about the future of their kingdom, could not have been executed more perfectly. While the camera flashes went off, Ok Joo-hyun gave an emotional performance as Mary Vixetta. The rehearsal included the musical's key scenes, as well as 10 songs from the score. The entire staff is immersed in the actors' passionate performance. Johanson watches the actors from an upper deck. He pays close attention, making mental notes about his feedback. The actors have prepared long and hard for this first performance. How did they feel about working with renowned director Robert Johanson?
그 로버트 연출님께서 짜고 있고 또 지금 머릿속에 갖고 계신 생각이나 플랜들이 또 배우로서 감정선을 타고 갔을 때 무리가 된다거나 하지 않고 되려 굉장히 도움이 되는 부분들이 많기 때문에 캐릭터를 조금 더 빨리 잡을 수 있는 그런 면을 많이 저희한테 지금 주시는 것 같고
선생님 같으세요. 그러니까 정말로 말이 통하진 않지만 그래도 배우들에게 정말로 많은 것들을 주시려고 노력하셔서 배우들이 마음만 먹으면 정말로 많은 부분들을 받을 수 있는 그런 선생님 같은 분이시고요.
Robert Johanson has created masterpieces for musical theaters, transcending barriers of language and culture through true communication that comes from the heart. We hope to see that leadership shine through yet again in Rudolph.
So tell us about Rudolph, and I know this person from history, but why a musical about Rudolph?
Well, it's always been a fascinating story for Europeans. Rudolph was a very famous crown prince who was the heir to the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, the only son of Franz Joseph.
Important.
Very important. And he commits suicide, and he's found with his lover, Mary Vixetta, and she's been killed as well. So it was a double suicide.
Wow.
So it's very Romeo and Juliet.
Very tragic.
Very tragic. And always, for many years, very mysterious. People really have spent years trying to figure out what exactly happened. And it happened at Meyerling. which has become kind of a word in European history. When you hear Meyerling, you know it's about the story of this tragic romance. So it's a true story, absolutely true, and the musical is telling its version of how they think that this came to be, how these lovely lovers turned into Romeo and Juliet.
So it's like a Romeo and Juliet after Shakespeare, but based on a true story.
Totally.
Wow.
Yes.
And so the famous Frank Wildhorn composed the music for this,
Yes.
and the book and the lyrics were by Jacques Murphy?
Yes, exactly. Yes, they're both Americans.
Wow.
But they were asked by the VBW company in Vienna
Yes.
to conceive the musical and do it for them. So it was done there and very successfully.
Okay.
And now it's been done in Japan, and now this is the Korean premiere.
With being such a world-renowned director, coming to Korea to direct Rudolph, and now this is your kind of 5th year of being here. What do you think it is that kind of keeps you coming back to Korea, and especially for this production?
Well, quite frankly, I mean, I know this is going out to other countries around the world, but in Asia, the most talented musical theater performers are right here in Seoul.
Interesting.
People come from Japan, they come from China to see musicals here.
Wow.
The accomplishment of the singers is really phenomenal for Western style music.
Wow.
They really are as good as anybody on Broadway or in the West End. From what we've come to understand, I think there's because Seoul is the 2nd largest city in the world.
Yes.
I mean, the amount of talent and the amount of productions that are done here every year is grown so fast.
Yes.
Because the talent is here.
Yeah.
And the support of the audiences is
Over
here.
the past 10 years, it's incredible to see that not only was there just a couple of theaters, but now there are tens of, maybe hundreds of theaters all around Korea.
When we won the awards for Elisabeth, there were 75 musical productions that year.
75 that year.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot. That's more than on Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, since the kind of financial crash that's happened in America and other places, but in America, a lot of the types of shows that are done on Broadway are safe. They're either based on a movie, or they're a revival of something that everybody knows, that people are not take as many risks.
Yes.
And they certainly don't produce musicals on the scale that these are being produced. These huge casts, huge orchestra, huge, just spectacle, just a really, because it's expensive.
Yes.
But because the support is here from the audiences, and because the economic situation is much better, we can do these kinds of shows.
When you as a director are choosing different people to be in your cast, like for example in this cast of Rudolph, how do you select someone for Rudolph? Like, what are you looking for? If you can explain the mindset of casting and directing.
Yeah, well, casting is really complicated because if you don't cast correctly, there's nothing you can do about it. You can make a person look okay, but I always believe, and this is sort of a little mystical, but I believe that there's a right time for a certain person to be playing a role at that time.
Interesting.
And I have to kind of have that feeling behind what their talent is, to feel like, no, I think this person needs to do this now. This is what their career is saying to them or whatever. And
so it's like a gut feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually go with I have to make sure, okay, they can sing all the notes, they have the right voice to sing it, all that, which is very important.
Yes.
But it's that emotional thing, because that's what the audience actually connects to. They got to do all those things, or they got to dance or do whatever they have to do to do the requirements, but the audience, for a part where you have two lovers that you're totally involved with and that you want to cry over and care about, there has to be something that's coming across the footlights that's beyond just a good performer. It's something more. And the 3 boys that we've cast for Rudolph all have that. They have a vulnerability. They have a sympathy that the audience can connect to.
So now you have cast Prince Rudolph, a triple cast.
Triple cast.
And I'm just curious, who's your favorite?
Oh, now, I can't say. No, but I will tell you this. I'm not going to say names, but they all have different strengths.
Okay.
One is the best singer. One is the best actor, but they're all so talented. They're all so talented. And I really love them all.
Yeah.
They're all so different. So what we do is we don't want them to look like little carbon copies of each other.
Okay.
We really let them, each one make their own performance according to their own special talents.
So even though they're very different in their singing ability or their dancing ability or their performing ability, doesn't that change a little bit of who Rudolph is on stage?
It does. That's why I think it's so interesting. I think that's why audiences like to come and see several people, because they're not actually seeing a rubber stamp. And it's the same with the women that play Mary. The same. They're all very different.
In working with a lot of the Korean actors, I wonder if you find something very different about their working philosophy or their attitude towards working on stage, their performances, as opposed to actors in other countries. What would you have to say about that?
One thing I have learned from working in many different countries and in America is it's amazing how many similarities actors actually have.
Okay.
We speak a common language, especially when we're dealing with musical material and things like that. That is common to all of those things. There's a way people approach it. So it's surprising how many similarities there are. But Korean actors, they're, I think, more than almost any actors I've worked with, they are definitely more dedicated.
Really?
They work so hard. I mean, we have been working from 10 in the morning till 10 at night for the last few weeks.
That's so intense.
And they're here, and they never flag, they never flag, they do it, they do it, they do it. And this work ethic is unbelievable. And they're so kind and happy and supportive of each other. You know, when the Rudolphs are rehearsing, the 3 different guys, the other 2 are always here cheering each other on. They're all very, very helpful. There's not a competitive
So there's no kind of diva-ish
not really
feeling between
no,
them?
not in this company. Now and then that can come up here and there. You know, something will happen. But I think in general, everyone's very generous and really supportive of everybody in the show. You know, helpful to everyone.
That's really fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic to hear that that is a big difference that you see with non-Korean and Korean actors and the musical
I mean,
actors.
when you work on Broadway, there's a lot of competition. They can't help it. Broadway is very intense, you know, and there's a lot of, from behind the scenes, the producers wanting a hit, wanting a big hit, whatever, and there's more tension. From the producers on down here, there's definitely a feeling of we're a family. We want everybody to be comfortable. You know, we want to enjoy this process that we're doing together, and let that, you know, let the audience feel that as well.
Do you have a favorite song within Rudolph, or something that is just?
Yes. There's this really, really beautiful song that's actually become quite famous outside the show. When Rudolph went to Japan, before it opened in Japan, this song had already become very popular.
Okay.
But it's a beautiful love song. It's called It's Only Love. Such a beautiful, simple way of putting a song, and Okchun, our beautiful musical theater star, sings that at the end of the first act. And every time she sings it, everybody in the room just stops, and there's this very moving quality to the music and the way that it's positioned in the play.
Wow.
So it's very haunting, you know, it's really special.
Wow. Here on the practice set here, we've got a lot of different kinds of props, and I wonder if you wouldn't mind showing me and kind of explaining to me some of the things that we see behind us.
Oh yeah, let's look at them.
Okay, fantastic.
These are just because we bring rehearsal props to the rehearsal studio. They're not even all finished being painted the way they're going to be on the stage, but it gives the actors, they start getting familiar.
So they
with
have
them.
something to work with.
Oh yeah, because you have to really come to, you know, you have to make it real for you. So each day they bring in even more.
Wow.
So here's one of our, you know, this is actually plays very importantly in our story.
Skull, wow.
Rudolph actually had the skull on his desk in his
like
in his
actual
office.
real skull.
It was a real skull.
Ooh.
And
I
there
don't
was,
think he's real.
You know, interestingly, Vienna actually at that time had the highest suicide rate in all of Europe. I don't know exactly why, but there was sort of a poetic fascination with death and this kind of thing. Sort of lots of people that would kill for love. You know, all this kind of, like a Romeo and Juliet thing.
Wow, this is kind of freaky, but
creepy.
really cool.
Yeah. Because in the musical there are these premonitions, you know, the little things of what's going to happen to these two.
Wow.
This is actually Rudolph.
Oh, it is.
And this is
okay.
his mother Elisabeth.
Oh, okay.
And Franz Joseph, the emperor, always had their pictures on his desk.
Oh, that's so lovely. Wow. And whose desk is this?
Well, this is actually Franz Joseph's desk for the emperor.
Oh, okay.
We actually have been using it for both Rudolph and Franz Joseph because we don't have Rudolph's desk here yet.
Yes.
But
Wow.
this was his desk, which is very similar to what he actually had.
Okay.
He actually was not ostentatious or anything. He really just had a working desk in a kind of small office that he would work in.
I mean, for someone of his stature to have
Yeah.
such a small
No,
desk.
he was
comparatively.
very conservative. Wow. Very. I've seen it. I actually went to the palace, and I've seen the
Really?
rooms are recreated. I mean, the actual furniture's there and everything. And
Amazing.
actually,
Yeah.
Sylvester Levay, who wrote Elisabeth, he actually lives in the Schönbrunn Palace.
He does.
Yeah.
How does he live
He-
there?
They've sold off, parts of the palace as apartments.
I see.
Not the part that the public goes to, obviously. And his wife is a very famous curator and historian of Austrian history.
Interesting.
And she knew the Habsburg family, and they said, "Oh, an apartment's become available," and they bought it.
Oh my
so I was
goodness.
actually in their apartment
That
in the
is-
Schönbrunn Palace.
that's crazy
One
trivia.
floor above where they lived.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. And it's no wonder that he's doing this
I
as a
know.
living.
So here's the bed.
This
now
is
you
the
know
bed. May I
You
sit?
can sit on the bed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, every love story, if it's any good, probably is going to end up in bed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very kind of special bed. Actually, it's very comfortable.
Oh yeah, it's not bad.
Wow, it's better than the
yeah.
one I
There
have
are
at
actually
home.
a number of scenes on this bed, and at one point there's a nightmare. I mean, Rudolph has a nightmare. It opens the second act, and the bed rolls all around the stage, and
Oh,
all these
wow.
things happen while he's in this crazy dream because of everything that's come up. So
Oh, wow.
this gets a lot of work out.
In a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
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 Now, I've been noticing also right behind us this incredible portrait of
Yes.
a very beautiful woman. Might she be Elisabeth?
This is Elisabeth. This is a famous portrait by the artist Winterhalter,
Okay.
who painted this one, and a very famous portrait of her in this beautiful white ball gown. Her presence is very important in Rudolph because
And why is that?
the actress, because no one plays Elisabeth, his mother, because actually during the time of his affair with Mary Vitsera, she was traveling away. She was away for those 4 months,
Okay.
and she actually returned just at the time when he commits the suicide.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it was a real powerful moment, but that's not really part of the story because she wasn't involved in the affair.
see.
It was this, he had a very difficult relationship with his father, and he's in the story. So her presence is in the piece.
I see.
Because Franz Joseph actually in his office, and when you go to the palace to this day, the portrait is sitting right by his desk, this
Oh,
portrait.
wow.
So he was deeply in love with Elisabeth. So
Well,
she was
she's
always there.
so beautiful.
She had hair down to
Wow.
her below her knees.
Wow. It almost makes me wish that I got extensions for this.
But apparently she also had a problem with headaches.
Really?
Yeah,
because she
I
has
mean,
so
it
much
was
hair.
a lot of hair. It was a
I mean,
lot
just
of hair.
the volume right
Yeah,
here.
yeah. But she was very beautiful. She was the Princess Diana of her day.
Yeah.
She really was
Incredible.
quite, people wanted pictures of her. She was very beautiful.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for showing me all of these different props. It's really fantastic to just be so close to something that this is one of the central parts of the show. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
The musical Rudolph kicked off in Korea on November 10th. The musical is set in the late 19th century at the beginning of industrialization. The stage reflects the dynamic changes of the period, both elaborate and modern at once. The stage at times feels more like a film set than a musical stage. Crown Prince Rudolph was a tragic character in history, born into political turmoil, dreaming of change, but ultimately losing both his dreams and his love. His heartbreaking story is offered up to Korean audiences this winter season.
I'm a great believer that it plays the most important role in your life. I've seen time and time again that first instinct you have about something is the one. As long as you're coming at it from that open place, and that first instinct, that first intuition about something, You have to remember that. You have to think about it. So for instance, when I read a play, when I'm going to do a play, I have to have 2 hours to sit down and read it from beginning to end without interruption. Because that first vision I see when I'm reading it that way, that vision is so much of what will end up on the stage. Because it's that mind giving you that intuitive process, like before you start editing and you know, superimposing or whatever. I think intuition is paramount. You have to figure out how that your life is open to being receptive to hearing, feeling what that intuition is.
Now, we just talked about Elisabeth,
Yes.
and Elisabeth is an incredible musical that you directed, and
Yes.
I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about the background for Elisabeth and about its success too.
And it was really, it's funny because there's this very famous portrait of her. Not this is one too, but there's another one of her in its beautiful white dress, which is very famous. And when I had been in Vienna 20 years ago, I had seen the portrait and got a postcard and kept it by my computer, you know, all these years, this postcard. So when they called me to direct this musical, it was like, you're kidding. She's looking at me right now. Here she is.
That's too funny.
Yeah. But it's sort of sometimes, you know, you do something beforehand, even not knowing that it's going to have a really important place in your life later on. So it was wonderful to really get into it.
Wow.
And the musical then was written by Sylvester Levet and Michael Kunze 20 years ago. Just they were writing it at the time I was there.
Interesting.
It became the most successful musical ever to be produced in Europe. Wow. And so, but it's taken this many years till last season to come to Korea.
Wow.
Very, very big show, very challenging. But in the end, we won more Korean music awards than any musical in the history of Korea.
It seems like every musical you touch is like the Midas touch, because it's been incredible with the rock opera of Hamlet, with Monte Cristo and Elisabeth, and they can only expect that Rudolph is going to do incredible. What do you think is your secret to making an incredible show and directing Koreans?
Well, I've been doing it a long time. That's the thing. You know, I've done about 250 shows in my life, and I started when I was 12. So I guess over the years, I hope I've learned something. You know, I've been able to, I was very fortunate. I don't know how this came about, but nobody in my family was in the theater or anything. I just suddenly got this dream, you know, to be involved in the theater as an actor and as a director, because I always loved both things.
Yes.
And when I came from college to New York, 10 days after getting to New York, I got cast in a Broadway show.
Wow, which so quickly.
Yeah,
That's
I was
incredible.
so lucky. And it was the musical Shenandoah, which ran for 3 years.
Wow.
So I kind of, boom, went right into it.
Yes.
And I mean, I'd already had all this training and learned things, but now here I was suddenly, you know, in the thick of everything.
Wow.
And then as soon as that closed, I began directing Shenandoah places because I was doing a slightly different production of it, and then I would be invited to other things. Before, I was in my mid-20s and I had a full-time directing career and an acting career.
Now, at such a young age, you said you started directing at age 12, is that right?
Well, yes, I had the whole school. I had 35 people from the school in 6th grade in a play that I wrote and directed and put on for the whole school. I don't even know what crazy teacher let me do this, but they let me do this.
She or he saw that you had talent.
Exactly, I don't know. And then every year I would do that. I wrote a new play in 7th grade, 8th grade. I don't even know these crazy people let me do this, but I guess I was so pushy or something. I don't know.
After junior high and high school, you went off to Ithaca College, which is really well known for its music and drama department. How did you choose Ithaca, and what was your experience like there?
Well, luckily I had met a student, someone that was a student there, and gotten information about Ithaca when I was looking at schools. And I actually looked at several other art schools at the same time, and I always felt Ithaca was the one I wanted to go to because it was so strong in music and drama.
Interesting.
Some were not, you know, one or the other. But the other schools I applied to, I got better scholarships to. But my parents went with me to each college, and my parents were just regular working class people, but they knew that this is where I needed to go. So they said, no, you have to go here.
Oh wow! So
And they really, you know, they really supported me, and it wasn't. It was, you know, it was a lot of money, but They did it, and that school I learned so much.
I mean, it seems like you've had incredibly supportive parents, and most middle-class parents, like most of us, we've had to take out a lot of student loans to go to school, and
I know.
it's a real burden
It's
afterwards.
hard. Oh, and it's even harder now. Please,
Yeah.
it's so hard. Oh my God.
But the fact that your parents just saw not only your talent, but they knew that this is the best place for you. How does that make you feel that they kind of sacrificed a lot to make you
Oh well.
into?
I mean, there's no
what you are
words to
now?
describe it.
Yeah.
I can't. It's
Yeah.
just unfortunate. Not everybody has loving parents that are just
Yeah.
that way. I mean, I hope most people do, but
Yeah. When you were growing up and doing these plays and musicals in school, do you remember anything that your parents said to you about pursuing your dreams?
well, it was funny. I'll tell you this one story. When I had done Shenandoah on Broadway for 3 years, every summer I would leave the show to go to Maine to Shakespeare for half the money. It was, but I had these wonderful roles I could perform and everything. And the first time when I told my parents that I was going to leave a Broadway show to go somewhere for half the money, my father was like, he could not understand what I was doing at all. And he didn't say a lot, but I knew that this wasn't setting well with him.
Well, he was concerned about you.
Oh, well, all those things.
Yeah.
But I mean, but he couldn't stop me. I was, 22 at the time or whatever. So then I was doing King Lear up there, production of King Lear, and I played the fool, and it was an amazing production. It was one of the best productions I was ever in. I didn't direct this. I was just acting in it.
Wow.
And wonderful, wonderful director and a beautiful company. And my father never graduated high school. But they came to see the Shakespeare shows because they would just come up and visit and see the shows. And it was a very powerful performance. And yet it was Shakespeare, it was King Lear, and my
Yes.
father didn't even graduate high school. So I go back, after the show, my mother comes backstage and she's, going on. And I said, well, where's Dad and everything? She said, well, he's out in the parking lot. And so I go out there. Now remember, King Lear is about fathers and children.
Yes.
That's what it's about. And I go out and my father is pacing around and he turns and he's got tears in his eyes. And I said, Dad, what's up? Are you okay? And he said, now I know why you made this decision. So, that was a very, very strong thing between me and my father because we didn't always talk well in terms of just verbally communicating, but I knew then that he kind of got me and I got him. And it was it's amazing how these situations come about in life.
Yeah. Going back to your earlier days of working in the States, in the early 2000s, you worked with the Paper Mill
Playhouse,
in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you got introduced to that organization and what types of shows you produced with them.
Well, I was the artistic director for 20 years there. It's kind of the foremost regional theater in America. It's just a half an hour from New York City. So we could get all the best talent and all that. And it's been in operation now over about 75 years. Very famous. All the great, stars of theater played there over the years. And Shenandoah actually brought me there. The first show I directed there was Shenandoah, as it turned out, and it was very successful for them. So they asked me to do the next 2 shows because one of the directors dropped out or something, and and suddenly, just like everything else in my life, like Korea, suddenly they were asking me back. So for the next couple of years, I was directing 2 or 3 shows a year for them, and then I became their artistic director and did 120 productions over the course of the time I was there, and was very fortunate to get to work with the best people. When we would do a revival, say of Follies, Stephen Sondheim would be there, and I would work with all the because we would be recreating the shows of these great artists or creating new musicals or whatever we were doing at the time. So I was very fortunate that I got to really hone all of my experiences through working with the best people. There's nothing like having the best talent to work with in every part of a huge collaborative production like a musical.
Absolutely. And you started at such a young age, not only from when you were in 6th grade, but as a 25-year-old to have that much experience, to go into such a prestigious organization like that. What do you think were some of the things that you learned kind of over the first couple of years before you were artistic director?
Well, marshaling a musical production is, the whole thing is about keeping the whole thing in your head. And I think directors that may not be as successful at it don't, haven't been able to hone that capability for everything. You have to really understand the music. You have to understand what choreography is. You have to understand the lighting, how the sets work, all of it. You have to learn all of those different disciplines so that you can pull it all together. That's your job.
Yes.
So if you're weak at certain areas, you've got to try to strengthen them.
Yes.
So over the course of that time, I could really learn all the different technology, all the different intricacy of those different mediums, so that I could be effective for everybody.
Absolutely.
And that's it's a lot, that the experience can't be underestimated. You can't just suddenly go, okay, I graduated college, now I'm directing this show with
Absolutely not,
250 people that are doing all these different jobs.
Yes.
And be able to not lose your mind. You know what I mean? I mean, it's hard enough.
Yeah.
I'm always losing my mind, but at least I can go, oh, no, but then you have to do this, okay?
Yes,
and
yes.
I'll go lose my mind after we take care of this.
I imagine too that directing. Some people have the idea that being a director is just all about prestige and ego.
Some people do. Some directors do. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
They play at the role more than just do the role.
Yes.
Act. I mean. Perform what they have to do. And this is an important lesson to learn. Often you'll have a director that's a frustrated actor that didn't make his acting career, so he turned into a director for some reason, but he always wants to act. So he's always jumping up in rehearsal and acting out the parts for the actors. But this isn't good.
No.
Because the actors they're imitating him then. They haven't learned how to bring it from their inside.
Yes.
Now and then you have to help an actor in that way, but you don't do that as a way of working, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because they have to do it night after night. They have to know where it's coming from. They
Yes.
can't just be imitating you. And so you can't, I don't need people to pay attention to me in the room. I don't need any of that. I just need them to do the work when we're together.
Yes.
I don't have to come in and be, oh, the director's here, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I can't bear that.
Going back to the Paper Mill Playhouse,
Yes.
can you tell me about an anecdote from that time that you were working there, and maybe a special production that really is in your heart and soul?
Well, earlier I mentioned that I had worked with Stephen Sondheim, and we did a revival of his musical Follies, which is a very great, grand, probably his biggest musical, the canvas of it.
Yes.
But we were fortunate enough to get great old-time stars
Nice.
to be in the show.
Like whom?
And one of the women was Ann Miller, who had done,
I love her.
50 MGM musical movies and all of that sort of thing. And she was very, very famous. And she had to sing the song, I'm Still Here. Now, she was 78 when we did it.
Wow.
She looked fantastic. She could still sing like crazy. And I called her up on the phone. I hadn't met her yet. I hadn't met her, but when we cast her, but I called her before she came to rehearsal, and I said, "Now I just wanted to talk to you, Anne, and see, if there was anything, you were wanting to talk about." And she said, "Well, honey, I like the song. I like the song a whole lot, but the lyrics are very good. But the music, it just kind of stays at the same tempo. I think we've got to each verse, it gets a little quicker, a little quicker, a little quicker." I said, "Need some pizzazz." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll talk to Mr. Sondheim." And, oh my God, I don't, because he's pretty strict about his stuff, So I prepared him. I said, Anne has an idea what she'd like to do, and do you mind if we work it out and we'll show it to you? Big pause. And he says, all right. So then she comes to rehearsal.
Wow.
So the day comes where she has to sing it for Mr. Sondheim.
Okay.
And
With the changes.
with ways we want to do
Okay.
it. And each verse got faster and faster, and she was a 78-year-old woman who was coming back to being that person that performed it when she was 20.
Yes.
Which she could. So she starts the number, and Stephen said, "You know what? I'll sit over by the piano so she doesn't have to face him." She would perform it out, and he'd sit to the side. She starts it.
Well, I'm almost through my memoirs, and I'm here. I've gotten through. Hey, lady!
And she starts it, and every word that comes out of her mouth, she'd been married several times, they talk about everything. All this stuff is
like
this is
her life.
This is her life, right? And it gets faster and faster, and she is 78 years old, and she is giving it, this performance.
And I'm
She finishes. We all look, Stephen Sondheim, tears running down his face.
Oh.
He comes over and he says, Annie, you sing it anyway.
Oh.
And he hugs her, and it was like, oh my God. And every night when she went out on that stage, the entire cast and crew, everybody would always stand in the wings.
just hearing
They would
about
always
this.
stand in the wings and watch her because they knew you don't see this kind of symbiotic, this kind of thing happening so often. And every night she sang that number, the audience just stood up like it was the Super Bowl.
Wow.
I mean, this isn't a show, just a show. It's not like they would just stand up and they wouldn't let her leave the stage.
Wow.
Because sometimes that thing happens where it's so, it's just, it's not art, it's just all one thing. It's like, oh my God.
Wow.
You get it. It's so in tune. So when I refer to these Rudolphs and everything,
Yes.
the audience has to have, they have to find some thread that connects them to the people on the stage, ideally. You've got to have
Yes.
heart. A show has to have heart.
Absolutely.
You know, too many shows nowadays just are slick and they're very entertaining.
and
but you want to
yeah.
feel something.
Yeah.
A very famous producer told me one time, I asked him, because he did a lot of different shows, and I said, well, which ones were always the most successful? He said, the ones that make people cry. Because they feel something. They'll come back and
Yes.
see that show many times. Because they want to feel that again. They don't want to just, they're happy to have a laugh and go home,
Yeah.
but then they don't need to see that show again.
Yeah.
They know what the laughs are already.
You've come to Korea, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
And that was mainly because of someone seeing you with the Czech production of Hamlet. And I'm curious what their response was when they saw that and they wanted for you to come to Korea. And how did you think about, what did you think about coming to Korea?
Well, luckily, this musical, it's a rock opera of Hamlet written by Janek Ledecki, who is sort of the Sting of the Czech Republic.
Yes.
Very, very popular pop singer there, and very, very talented composer. And he did an amazing job writing the score for this Hamlet. It's very visceral. It's sort of, I liken it to Jesus Christ Superstar,
Yes.
the Bible. I mean, he really, it's that type of thing. And it really grips the audience. It has this heart that I'm talking about. You get caught up in it. So the Koreans that came to see it, Sophie Kim and Mr. Ohm from EMK Productions, felt that. Even though it was in Czech and they didn't understand all the words, they got the emotional ride.
Wow.
And then they wanted to bring it. So when this happened, it was like, okay, I guess we're going to Korea. And I at that point, I knew nothing about Korea.
Wow.
I mean, barely anything about Korea because, it was just off my radar.
Yeah.
I hadn't visited Asia.
Wow.
At that time.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, well, this will be an adventure. Let's see what's going to happen. And from the moment we arrived, it was one eye-opening experience after another. First of all, just to see the talent here, because I
Yes.
didn't know until we got here how
Wow.
amazing the talent was. Really amazing, and the really generosity and warmth of the Korean people, and the delicious food.
Yes, are you a big fan of Korean food?
I love Korean food. I love Korean food, and I'm always sitting down and the Koreans are saying, "You like our food? Yeah, I love your food." What? Because I guess a lot of Western people, it's too much. They're not used to the heat or whatever's in it. I can't wait. I can't. They want to take me to a steakhouse. I said, no.
That's too funny.
No, I want to have bulgogi. I want to have bibimbap. No, I don't want American food.
Wow, so you would reject the burger and you'd go for bulgogi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, in a minute. Oh my God, yes. And I love going to just the little restaurants that are
Yes.
kind of mom and pop type restaurants. Oh, it's so good.
Wow. Do you think that maybe you were meant to come to Korea on some level?
Oh yes. I again, I think I had a wonderful grandmother. She lived with my family, and she went through many, 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 many struggles in her life, bringing up her children during the Depression. She was a single mom, bringing up her kids. Her farmhouse burned down. Everything that could happen to a person happened to her, and she had a great outlook on life. And I think it started with her, and then my own parents, and whatever, we all run into difficulties in our life. We all have things that hurt us or we have to overcome. And the quicker we can do that, the better life we can have. And when you can figure out how to let go of those things that inhibit you, then you're open. And then you see, then you start to see, you know what? Just show up every day. Just show up. And these wonderful things are going to happen to you in life.
Wow.
And that's what Korea has been. Just go and see what happens.
Wow.
And here I'm in now,
That's incredible. I wonder if you feel like being in Korea is somehow maybe taking your directing to another level, or maybe it's a synergetic effect of everything that you've done even more. How would you describe your work here and what that means to you?
I think it's there's something so much bigger than me. You know, again, like we talked earlier.
Yes.
For anybody in the arts, and it is tricky, you have to figure out how to get rid of your ego. You really do.
Yeah.
Because you can work so much better without that. The ego actually holds you back.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody has an ego, and you can
Yes.
never not have an ego, but you
Right.
have to put it in perspective. And
You sound very Zen, actually.
oh yeah,
Do you
yeah.
study
Oh,
Buddhism?
listen. Yes, I have. I'm going to Thailand in a little while, so.
Ah, there you go.
And actually, right before we opened Monte Cristo, Mr. Ohm took me to where he grew up, to a Buddhist temple, and we did our 108 bows to
Wow.
to ask for success for the
Yes.
show. So maybe it worked.
That's
But-
fantastic.
yeah. But I think, you know, this is what I have been doing all my life. I've just been sort of a channel for it. You know, this is my gift. People get their gifts, and I figured out
Yeah.
this is what I was supposed to do. So I've just been a channel to take each situation, figure out what is the best thing we can do in this situation. Just get the ego out of the way, because as soon as you get that in there, it just stops you from letting that flow happen.
Yes. Your 5th year here in Korea, what are some of your future projects? Do you plan to be in Korea for longer?
It seems like that's going to happen.
Really?
Yeah. Well, right after
Yay for us.
Rudolph, we're going very shortly after Rudolph. We go into production for Rebecca,
Okay.
which is quite an interesting musical.
And what's it about?
It's a mystery. It's for anybody that knows about the famous Alfred Hitchcock movie called Rebecca
Oh,
that
yes.
won the Academy Award and all that stuff for Best Picture, and it's a Daphne du
I
Maurier
love that
novel.
movie,
It's
yeah.
very, very intriguing story about this first wife of a man who's died, and then the second wife is finding all this stuff out about Rebecca. And it's very, very clever and very pulls the audience in. It's written by the authors of Elisabeth.
Oh, okay.
So this will be the Korean premiere of Rebecca, which is now played, you know, all over Europe and Japan as
Yes.
well. Now finally it will be coming to Korea, and it's very lavish, very big. We have to burn the house down at the end.
Really? You're actually going to be
We're going
burning?
to burn the whole house at the end. That's the big finale.
Oh, wow. That sounds
That's all
really...
I'm going to say.
We'll have to stay tuned,
I
yeah?
hope we don't burn all Seoul down at the same
No.
time. But
One last question. Korea is one of the largest kind of musical communities worldwide.
Yes.
And it's, what, maybe the 6th largest in the world?
Easily.
Easily. Then
If not
what would you say is the Korean musical scene's strength as opposed to other countries' musical scenes?
well, there's no question that it is the quality, the level of talent, the level of talent. And for whatever reason, the voices in Korea, more than other Asian countries like Japan or China,
Yes.
really suit Western music.
Interesting.
And it's amazing. I mean, to have these people have these huge musical voices, these huge ranges, this flexibility, this real talent for
Yes.
singing. And you know, we go to a musical to hear the singing,
Absolutely.
no matter what. I mean,
Right.
you want the acting, everything to be good, but ultimately you want to be thrilled by the singing.
Definitely.
And you know, there are a lot of places that do interesting musicals, and the drama's good, but the singing is not on that level.
Wow. You know what's so interesting is that Korean and English as languages are just polar opposites in every way, grammatically speaking and structurally. And so but it's interesting that you say that Koreans are best suited for Western style singing.
I know.
Wow.
It's amazing because I think unlike Japanese or Chinese, I think the production of those languages is a little different
Yes.
and doesn't necessarily suit itself to open kind of singing. Whereas there are a lot of very open vowels. You know, the actual sound of Korean when it's sung is very pretty.
Yes.
It's like, almost like Italian. There's that lovely use of the vowel sounds.
Yes.
So it's it's good for singing.
Wow. Last but not least, what do you plan for in the future besides other kinds of musicals that you want to direct? Do you ever want to write your own musical?
Well, I have done some, but luckily it's funny that you mentioned that. And we didn't set this up, but you mentioned it. But EMK Productions have become so successful now here, but they have been doing musicals that have existed somewhere else.
Yes.
And we're now talking about, you know, conceiving our own shows within the Korean community here.
Fantastic.
And we're coming up with, which project to do. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, wow.
I like working on new and challenging projects. I've done so many things that I still want to have the ultimate challenge, the ultimate challenge, the ultimate challenge.
So it just keeps raising the bar
Yeah.
each time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, there's that part that's like, oh, don't even think about it or else you'll go running. You jump on the plane and go home.
But you're still around.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Well, Robert, it's been so amazing to talk with you, and I know that our audience is going to be just on the edge of their seats,
God.
just ready to hear all of the things that you had to say today. And I know that many people here in Korea are really thrilled for Rudolph to be coming out, and to know that you're the director of it, and with your experience, it's going to bring so much excitement and energy into that production. I just can't wait to see it
Thank
myself.
you. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed talking with
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure. Oh, King, in your chair.
감사합니다. 감사합니다.
수고하셨습니다.